Okay, so I've been doing a lot more research into Buddhism and Taoism. And the way I kind of go about that is honestly, I use ChatGPT a lot. It's a much more personal tool to kind of organize all these things and stuff. And I had it recommend me books to read so I could get more well-versed in each of the practices. For the Buddhism side, it recommended the Dhammapada, I think that's how you pronounce it. And then for the Taoism side, it was the Tao Te Ching. I haven't gotten into that one yet. I really just wanted to focus on one before the other, so I didn't get them confused or mistake a different verse for a different teaching. So I went through all of the Dhammapada. This has a 100-page introduction and a glossary at the end. I wanted as unfiltered and unbiased experience as possible in reading it, so I just skipped those completely. I'm sure it'd be interesting to reread them now after finishing the actual verses within. But I had a lot of mixed feelings about this, and it's not against Buddhism itself. It's more of some of the institutionalism that got carried on later throughout the tradition. And so I wanted to make a video going over it, and I'm going to split it into two. One going over what I enjoyed and got out of it, and the other kind of what I questioned a bit more or didn't align with personally. Again, nothing against anyone who does or anyone who finds true joy out of reading it or anything like that. It's just my personal experience. So to go over what I liked first, because it's always better to start with the positives, in my opinion, I'm just going to go through a couple of these sections that really spoke to me. And I did a dog ear on the top of the ones I liked and then on the bottom of the ones I disliked, just to kind of help myself separate them out. And I'll just be doing a quick cliff notes of each basically and what I got from it. The first section is actually section 8. It's called Thousands. This section basically just goes over the idea of unnecessary struggle or abundance. It's saying, better than a speech of 1,000 vain words is one thoughtful word which brings peace to the mind. Now, that's the best summary of this entire chapter, and it's the first sentence. It's basically just saying, instead of getting an overabundance of things that don't truly participate on the path you're trying to walk, it's better to take time and just find one thing or a couple that really speak to you and can help with that. So it kind of helps with the overabundance of, you don't need to meditate every single day, all these different things, force yourself to do these things. Instead, find something that works for you and what you believe in and how it helps yourself. So that one I really liked. Another one that really spoke to me, and there's kind of a theme behind the ones that I like and dislike. The ones I like stay very much non-dogmatic at all. It kind of gets rid of the institutionalism that some of the other sections show. And it instead of telling you how to live, it's just saying, here's what worked. Go figure it out yourself. So it leaves that ambiguity in the air, which I thoroughly enjoy, because I don't think a path towards salvation is necessarily even a real thing. And if it is, it can't be the same for everybody. You know, everybody's different. Everybody processes things differently. And I think trying to just impose one specific system onto the entirety of humanity is absurd. That's just kind of my take on it. So the second one I marked was self, and this is number 12. And it basically says, before you can teach other people, you have to teach yourself. So I don't view this as a selfish strength, abandon everybody to just become pure and wise yourself. I think it's more of a building a base. You can't expect to participate and support life amongst other people if you yourself can't support yourself, basically. If you can't bear your own emotional load, it's hard to help others do the same without collapsing. So I think that this is very, it very much speaks in this section specifically. It says, one of the sections says, your own self is your master. Who else could be? With yourself well controlled, you gain a master very hard to find. Now, the only part, no, actually, this one really, it kind of stands out the whole way through. Now, a lot of these, I like half of it and sort of ignore the second half. I like to pick and choose. I read all of it, but I like to pick and choose instead of just following it blindly. This one stays fairly consistent. A lot of them start off like this, or they start off very dogmatic and then kind of loosen up towards the end. This one does not do that. It stays consistent throughout, which I thoroughly enjoy. Another section says, by oneself is evil done, by oneself one is injured. Do not do evil, and suffering will not come. Everyone has the choice to be pure or impure. No one can purify another. True. The only thing that I find as a critique for this, and this is just kind of nitpicking, is suffering will not come. I think expecting suffering to never approach you or persist in your life is not a realistic goal, and I find it can do more harm than good. That is honestly chasing the ideology of perfection, which is impossible. So that's the only part. But again, that's kind of nitpicking. It's kind of just saying, in general consensus, if you do not do harm, the karmic cycle of harm will not come back to you, which is a good mantra to have in the world. And it's a funny tie over. The next one I liked is actually called The World. And it's straight the next one. And this one basically says, be yourself, follow the beat of your own drum, and things will end up working out. And the first one, the first section specifically, first stanza stands out specifically, says, do not follow wrong laws, don't be thoughtless, don't believe false doctrines, don't follow the way of the world. This section right here, I think, is my favorite one in the entire book because it specifically contradicts a lot of the other chapters in the book. And I think unless you're reading this to truly understand the teachings instead of just smile and nod along, it's kind of a wake-up call. It's saying, don't just blindly follow what others are saying. Think for yourself. That's the part I think is the most important. Don't be thoughtless. It's not saying don't listen to other people. It's saying think for yourself. And if you want to believe it, fantastic. If not, you at least did that first step of critical thinking. And I think that's one of the most important things you can do as a person. And then at the end it says, better than ruling this world, better than attaining the realm of the gods, better than being Lord of all worlds, is one step taken on the path to nirvana. Now, I think that it comes off as a little extreme, but it's basically just saying extreme pride and ego will never carry you to a path of enlightenment. Now, the term of enlightenment or nirvana, I'm not entirely sure I buy into. I think once you label it, it kind of disregards the idea behind it completely. I think it kind of contradicts itself, and I think it kind of brings about the awareness of that false enlightenment, and I think that's a good thing. But if you just smile and nod along, you kind of fall into that category. So I think that's why this chapter purposefully contradicts itself and a lot of the other things that are said in this book, and that's why I truly enjoyed it, because it was kind of it's not a gotcha, but it's more of a, are you actually reading or are you just scanning the page? The next one I really liked was called Joy. It says, let us live in joy, never hating those who hate us. Let us live in freedom, without hatred even among those who hate. Let us live in freedom, without disease even among those who are ill. Let us live in freedom even among those who are bound by selfish attachments. Let us live in growing joy like the bright gods. Now, I think the main takeaway from this one is less let us live like gods or anything like that, because that would be an ego coming back into the thought. It's more of find peace amidst chaos. At least that's what I read from it. And I think that's a fantastic thing to try and learn how to do. Because the world is never going to be perfect. And that's kind of the point of it. That's what makes the good times so good, is the imperfections among the bad. And I think trying to erase it completely is irresponsible, selfish in itself, and just outright dumb. It sounds kind of harsh, but in my opinion, it really is. And this chapter kind of just goes over the fact of, even amidst all that, within yourself, you can still find that peace or freedom that you're looking for. And that's the most important part. Now, where this chapter kind of loses me is at the end, where it says, keeping company with the immature is like going on a long journey with the enemy. The company of the wise is joyful, like reunion with one's family. Therefore, live among the wise who are understanding, patient, responsible, and noble. Keep their company as the moon moves among the stars. And then right above that it says, but avoid the company of the immature if you want joy. Now that is where it loses me. That's where that silent ego creeps in, where it gives off the idea that if you're wise, you're better. You're better off without these people. You're better off cutting these people off. And I feel that's just such a drastic move. Burning bridges, in my opinion, is honestly never the best situation or choice to make. I think, if anything, you can just kind of try and nudge those people along. You don't have to stay in direct contact, but just completely cutting people off and ignoring them and looking at them as lesser, as immature, while you're wise, is so egotistical. My first question is, how do you know you're wise? What is wise? It's different to everybody. It's a subjective term. And then to claim immaturity on somebody else is then being like dogmatic and creating this rule that you're either immature or you're wise. And if you're on the path to being wise, you have to cut off the immature. And I just think that's, at least that's not the way I want to live, if that makes any sense. But I digress. And then another chapter, anger. Now, this one I liked a lot because it says, conquer anger through gentleness, unkindness through kindness, greed through generosity, and falsehood by truth. Give freely even if you have but little. Injuring no one, self-controlled, the wise enter the state of peace beyond all sorrow. Now again, the beyond all sorrow part is where it loses me a little bit. But I'm assuming that's when you move to past the cycle of birth and rebirth, as they claim, and you move into nirvana. So maybe that's what that's hinting at. Again, I don't believe that. It's okay if you do. I'm not putting anybody down for doing it. It's just not my belief personally. So that's where it kind of loses me a little bit, but I can't appreciate the sentiment behind it. The reason I really like this is it's basically just saying take the high road. There's no point in stooping to lower levels. There's no point in trying to get petty revenge. That's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to breed more negative emotions within. So if you can take the high road, just take the high road. And it's hard to do, but it pays off in the end for freedom within yourself. And I think that's a good mantra to keep as well. Another one I liked is called impurity. Now, I didn't mark either of these ones, and I marked only the last one because one of the stanzas in the end is really where it speaks to me. I think on the first two, the reason I didn't like it is because it just basically claims that any negativity, any impurity in your life is a setback and you've regressed and you're not on the path to nirvana, basically. And I just think, again, that's completely unrealistic, and it's a set of perfection that's impossible to really follow. Now, the reason I liked these is because it kind of gives you an idea of what the negative emotions are, and I don't think to avoid them completely or bottle them up completely. I think it's good to identify them so you can recognize them within. And it says there's no fire like lust, no jailer like hate, no snare like infatuation, and no torrent like greed. It's easy to see the faults of others. We winnow them like chaff. It's hard to see our own. We hide them as a gambler hides a losing draw. And I think that really speaks, because it's saying, don't just look at negativity in others. It's very easy to spot that, but you have to look inside. It's very hard to spot when you're experiencing that negativity. So I think that's more just a recognition and awareness, not an erasure. And that's the way I kind of like to look at that chapter. So the other one I marked, I have 2 more marked that I liked. Second to last one is established in Dharma. And now this one I liked because it kind of contradicts the rest of the book too. One is not wise because he talks a good deal. They are wise who are patient and free from hate and fear. Gray hair does not make an elder. One can grow old and still be immature. So I think, in another section, neither pleasant words nor a pretty face can make beautiful a person who is jealous, selfish, or deceitful. Shaving one's head cannot make a monk of one who is undisciplined. Now, the reason I like this is because it calls out the imposters. I get that's a harsh term, but it's basically just saying just because you act like something doesn't mean you are that. Just because someone's old doesn't mean they're wise. Just because someone meditates and shaves their head doesn't mean they're a monk. It comes from action, not belief, basically. And I think that it's hinting at the fact, again, of no matter what you do or how you try, unless you fully practice what you preach, you're not actually that thing. And I don't think it's wrong to shame the people who aren't, but I think it's nice to recognize it in yourself when you might be doing that. When might you be acting a certain way and not performing the other? It's a kind of harsh realization, but I think a harsh realization is necessary in life to try and move past it. And I think it also kind of just says, if you're just blindly following someone who's old and claiming to be wise, you are living in ignorance. You need to question, you need to try to understand, and you need to think for yourself, basically. The last one, and it's close to the end of the book, that I liked is called The Elephant. It says, patiently I shall bear harsh words as the elephant bears arrows on the battlefield. People are often inconsiderate. Best among men are those who have trained the mind to endure harsh words patiently. Now, I think that last word really puts the nail in the coffin for me, is patiently. You don't just have to endure, you don't have to ignore, you don't have to put up with. You can just absorb, understand that this hate is coming from them, not you, and you can help move past it. Again, it's not giving in to those desires of revenge, pettiness, all these things. It's just simply observing the world through a third-person lens and then applying it to your first-person perception. And I think that's a fantastic thing to try to learn how to do. Difficult, when someone's just screaming at you, berating you, yelling you, it's hard to resist those urges of doing it back because you want them to know how it feels. But that's not right. You're not doing anything but sinking to their level. So I think trying to rise above that is a great way to find peace within yourself. So that's basically a couple of the chapters. Again, extremely short cliff notes. I would definitely recommend reading this to people. Again, I'll go over kind of the parts I didn't like, these lower dog ears, in a different video. But overall, I think if you can pick and choose and genuinely read instead of just scan, this is a great thing. It has what I consider not life lessons or anything, just mantras, just small reminders of, how should I look at this? And I don't think it provides any solutions. And I think, in my opinion, if you come to it looking for solutions, you're already in the wrong mindset. I think life should be a mix of questioning and insight rather than dogmas and salvation. But overall, interesting read. It's definitely cool finding out about Buddhism more and the more institutionalized it became as it grew, which is kind of a necessity for it to grow, but just interesting to watch that happen. So definitely recommend this. And again, I'll go over kind of the negatives for me in a different video, and I will warn you, I get got pretty passionate when reading this, because as much as I like the goods, I think the things I disagreed with were a lot bigger of disagreements, which is okay. You know, I don't want to just live in an echo chamber. I want to disagree with things and just read throughout and see, does it change my mind? And I'm going through with an open mind. But yeah, so we'll definitely touch on that later. And yeah, thanks.